Hi everyone, this is Professor Cope, and I am giving you a bit of a review of a sample essay that I provided. The goal for me in this video is to kind of show you all what are some aspects of an argumentative essay that you probably want to try to replicate in your essay. So use this video as a way to guide you through a process to kind of help you make sure you have all of the elements that you need in order to communicate your arguments effectively as well as clearly. So I will go over this, make some comments, and then if you have any questions or comments, feel free to send me an email or post them in the general questions sections in Blackboard. All right, so I'll just go ahead and get started. This particular paper is organized in MLA format. So you can write in MLA or APA for SNHU, but essentially this sample is MLA. So notice the person's name, my name, the class, and the date, right? All parts of MLA format. Then there is the last name and the page number in the upper right hand corner, and notice that the numbers are in fact counting up. So that is the formatting that you want to make sure that you have when you are writing in MLA style. And then also notice that this person's title is essentially something that is not generic. It doesn't say something like paper two or argumentative essay. It is a title that is related to the topic that this individual is discussing. And he is discussing public smoking. All right. So that's kind of what you want to make sure that you replicate in your own essays. Avoid generic titles such as, again, argumentative essay or research essay. Titles should always be related to the actual topic that you're writing about. All right, so what I want to do now is go and give you some ideas in terms of what are the specific areas of the paper that I'm looking for. So of course, this is the first paragraph, meaning that this is the introduction, right? So the introduction typically has background information that is supposed to let the reader know what the paper is going to be about. It also, for the most part, provides history or context so that the reader can understand what the topic is about or what or why you're actually writing the paper. And then you follow that up with your actual thesis statement, which provides both a position as well as main points that you have to support that position. So this particular piece, all of this section is this individual's background information. I'm not going to read over it via the video, but you should read over it by pausing the video so you can get an understanding of what he is communicating. But essentially, what he's trying to do is provide context for the reader so that they have an understanding of why this topic is important in the first place. All right, so once he's provided that context in this particular section, then we get to his thesis statement. Notice this particular piece is not necessarily required for a thesis statement, but it is something that he put in to try to, I guess, eliminate bias as much as he possibly could. So it's not required, but it certainly doesn't hurt if you actually include it in your own essays. All right, but this is his official thesis statement, which is public smoking should be banned because it negatively impacts the health of non-smokers, hurts the aesthetic quality of public areas, and influences children to take up a potentially life-threatening habit. So if you notice, the position is very clear, right? Public smoking should be banned. So that's part one. You must always have a thesis statement that has a position listed. All right. That's the thing that's absolutely necessary for all argumentative essays. Then you follow that up with your main points. So this is his first main point because it negatively impacts the health of non-smokers. So main point number one. Main point number two, public smoking hurts the aesthetic quality of public areas, right? And then finally, main point number three, it influences children to take up a potentially life-threatening habit. So essentially, he provides both his position and his main points in one sentence, thus creating the entire thesis statement. This is something that you all should do as well. So you shouldn't have multiple sentences. Instead, give me one sentence with your position and the three main points that you will be discussing. And you will have a very clear, distinct thesis statement that both reveals your position on the issue as well as what it is that you're going to be discussing in the essay. All right, so for this particular piece, what I want to actually talk about is the connection between the thesis statement and the body paragraphs. So if you notice again, this is the thesis statement, and then this is the first point. Excuse me, this is the first point. Right, so the first thing that we know that this individual is going to be discussing in this paper is basically how public smoking is negatively impacting the health of non-smokers. So if you notice, the very first sentence of the body paragraph is public smoking can have a significantly adverse effect on the health of non-smokers since cigarette smoke contains harmful chemicals that can lead to debilitating illnesses or even death. So if you notice, the position, the main point, public smoking negatively impacts the health of non-smokers, that particular piece is also repeated here. So there is continuity between this point, this main point listed in the thesis statement, and this main point listed in the topic sentence. The function of the topic sentence is to make sure that the reader knows what's going to take place in the rest of the paragraph. So by reading this particular piece, I know that this is going to be a discussion about how public smoking hurts the health of non-smokers, which again goes back to the first thing that is mentioned in this thesis statement. So now, as I'm reading this as a reader, I want to make sure that the evidence that's going to be provided is going to make sense, that this person is in fact proving this particular point that they've made, which again corresponds to what they say in the thesis statement. So he goes on to say, the air in public places where smoking is allowed is often saturated with many deadly toxins found in secondhand smoke. And then he provides some evidence that he got from the Surgeon General. Excuse me, and it's very specific information that he provided so that the reader can have a clear understanding of what he's trying to do in terms of proving it. So this evidence is designed to kind of prove the point that he's making here. But sometimes the evidence that we provide isn't always clear. So what we need to have once we have our evidence, so he provided this as a introduction to the evidence, and because this quote is very long, he put it in a block quote format. If it wasn't as long, he would just probably have put quotation marks. But then notice in this particular section, he actually provides an explanation of what the evidence is. In other words, he shows the reader how this information proves what he said here. So he writes, this evidence clearly highlights the debilitating and adverse health effects that secondhand smoke causes due to the fact that it contains the same toxins found in poisonous gases and chemical weapons. The same thing that is listed here, he is using to kind of prove how this relates to this. So when you're writing your own essays, once you establish a clear topic sentence that is argumentative, that's a claim, relates back to your thesis, and on top of that you provide very specific evidence, then provide a sentence, I like to call it a tie-in sentence, that will show the reader how that evidence connects back to your point here. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you have any questions or need any more clarification, then feel free to let me know. All right, and so just to kind of summarize what I've already mentioned here, you just want to make sure that, again, you have a thesis statement that lists a position and have the main points, 1, 2, 3, and then make sure that your points are listed in the very first sentence. So this is the very first point that's being mentioned in the thesis statement, should be the very first point that's discussed in the body paragraph. And all the information, the evidence and so forth goes in to try to prove that point. Once you finish with this point, then you move on to either the counter argument, if that's the route you go, or move on to the second point. So this is a process that you want to repeat over and over again to create the most effective essay as possible. I will make another video regarding counter arguments at a later time, but if you have any questions about any of this, please let me know. I'm definitely here to help. Thank you, everyone.